Heather, you once alluded to the female analog of domestic abuse, which I took to mean the kind of soul and ego-crushing meanness and emotional vampirism that is the mode of female bullying. What are your thoughts on why it gets little attention, and any advice for someone who suffered through it? So I'm wondering, I guess what this question is, I would zoom out a little bit and say, this term that is widely used now, which I don't like, but in order to compare it to the right thing over in female space, I'll say, if toxic masculinity is way over ascribed, but it is a real thing, and domestic abuse is a typical manifestation of that, and there are other less gross manifestations, but that's an obvious one. It's a male typical form of using power over members of the opposite sex. Given that exists, is there what are the chances that there's no analog of toxic femininity in which women use female typical forms of power to have power over the opposite sex? And let's see, the question was ego-crushing meanness, emotional vampirism, female bullying. Why does it get little attention? It's more covert. It's more subtle, like the way that men tend to deal with things either between themselves or in service of, trying to, force a woman to get something done, in its toxic form is going to be through physical activity. And that's easy to see. It's easy to describe. It's easy to call the police in and have them take care of it if you're lucky enough to be in a situation where you can do that. And the covert stuff, the behind the scenes, the using social pressure and gossip and basically behind the scenes words that don't leave any marks is potentially very, very powerful, but much harder to point to. It leaves less of a trace, both on bodies and in terms of the outside world, and people who begin to discern, like everything here is kind of feeling like it all goes back to that person over there. I think she's the source of all these crazy stories, and all of our lives are kind of unraveling. It takes a lot of sleuthing. It takes more sleuthing to uncover that sort of thing. So that's part of why it gets little attention. At the moment, it's also, we're just like we're not allowed, we have to believe all women, and we have to believe that no Black people can be racist. And, we're being told we have to believe these things that are patently untrue. We're just in a moment where it's harder to talk about the ways that women also cause grief in the world, just like men do, except, it doesn't look just like men because men and women are different. Any advice for someone who suffered through it?
I recommend the Arctic Monkeys song "Marty Bum." That's what I recommend.
So I don't know the song, or at least I don't know it by the name, because I don't know songs.
Well, this
by
is
names.
Obviously a stretch. I don't experience this phenomenon, and so I don't need this song, but it's quite a good song that addresses this particular phenomenon. Uh-huh. I like the idea of vampirism, by the way. I think that it's a good one. But anyway, the song, the Arctic Monkeys are deep. They're a very deep band, and actually they're very insightful about all sorts of things, including sexual ethics and stuff like that. Anyway, this song is about internal relationship dynamics. Anyway, I don't know that it has any advice about what to do, but it's certainly...
But a recognition that other people can see the thing and have experienced the thing that you're experiencing is important.
Right. A recognition that it is a phenomenon,
yeah.
Right? Rather than, being so zoomed in that it feels like you have to respond to the details of it. It's,
So, listening to the song so that you don't feel like you're alone in the world that sounds like good advice. I've written about it. I think I talked with David Fuller at Rebel Wisdom about it as well, about toxic femininity. But I think, it's easier if I don't know why I'm assuming you're a guy, to want to just go hang out with male friends and talk about this thing. And, that can be useful. for sure, but it also can lead down the path to some of the toxic forms of sort of MGTOW and MRAs and stuff that we are also seeing, something that I also talked to David Fuller about back when we had that conversation a couple years ago. God, whatever time. But I would say, find women who don't do that, right? Like, try to have women in your world with whom you're friends, and it sounds like you're interested in having someone who is more than a friend as well. There are plenty of us who don't engage in that stuff, just like there are plenty of women, plenty of men who don't beat on women. Yep. Right. And, there are more minor forms of toxic masculinity that don't involve beating, and that's more common. And there are more minor forms of toxic femininity that don't involve, emotional vampirism, and that's going to be more common. And, the more minor it is, the more common it's going to be in the population. But there are plenty of people of both sexes who don't involve in the pathological version of the thing. And they're worth finding. Mm-hmm.